Hey, it's Programmer's Life once again. Welcome back from the previous session. So, in this session, we are revisiting one of the steps of problem solving, and that step was step 4, actual coding. I know most of us that have been watching the previous episodes kept asking themselves, when are we doing the programming? When are we going to see that language? Is the language in color blue, green, pink, or purple? How does really a language look like? I will also ask you the same question. How does English look like? How does Dutch look like? How does any other language look like? Definitely languages have no colors, but when you speak, someone can know it's this language. Sadly or unfortunately, in the programming world, we don't speak these languages, but we write these languages. So yeah, that was just a way off, but today we are focusing on step 4. Step 4 is about actual programming, and we said it involves a programmer choosing the tools to use in the process of programming. And among the tools they choose is a tool called programming languages. I'm very sure if you've watched all the episodes earlier and you've done the research, then definitely you know what a programming language is. So our choice or our test of language was C++. So I'll choose a new tab here, and we shall have C++ programming language. Okay, it's a good habit. I have it as a culture. I never begin programming in a language unless if I know the background of the language, unless if I know the details of the language. In most cases, when you don't do that, then somehow, somewhere in the future, you're most likely to face problems. Reason: you did not read or get the details about the background of the language. So C++ is a powerful, mark every term that we note in this session, because it's going to be our guideline for until when we are to move miles and miles in this language. So it's a powerful general purpose language. Okay, powerful means it does quite a lot, and we are going to prove that as we move along. Being general purpose, it means it does, in the a lot that it does, then it's not segregative. It really encompasses quite a number of tasks that it performs. Then all that we need to know, it's a programming language, okay, and it's among the ones that are called high level programming languages. Okay, C++ is also a high level programming. Now, high level programming languages are in their form of writing or usage, they have English like statements, though not straight English, but it can easily be understood by someone when they try to read through. If they're not programmers, of course they will see the words and they can read, but programmers, they will read and definitely they will be able to interpret what is written. So it's a high level language. Okay, now the language is used to develop or to perform quite a number of activities. Okay, now before we go into what it does, we need to know in its nature what is composed in there. So the language supports different ways of programming. The language supports different ways of programming. Now, this one brings in something that is so very important. Now, we have so many programmers use different languages, so many programmers write different applications, both in mobile or in web, then in desktop applications. But every programmer has a way of programming, or every programmer has a certain technicality in their programming, or every programmer has their own methodology of programming. Now, this one depends on quite a number of things, but one, it depends on the type of the language. If you are a programmer, a language dictates how you should program in that language. Then, as a programmer also, you can have different habits. You can have certain kinds of culture in a way you do things. So such things dictate on the ways in which someone can do the programming. But back to C++, it supports different ways of programming. Among them, we have what we call object-oriented. I know it's reflecting back for the second time, and definitely along the way we shall know what it really means. So it supports object-oriented, then it supports what we call procedure, and this is borrowed from the sister, I should call it the sister, the brother, or the relative called C language. So it also supports the procedure concept. Then it also supports the functional. It also supports the functional mode of programming. Now, for those guys that might have done their assignment or the research, I think it was in our first episode, then you must have found out the details about object-oriented, procedure, and functional. The idea of reading and you're not really picking about them, that is no problem, because along the way we shall get exhausted, or we shall get details about what each of these programming ways mean. But definitely C++ supports each of them. Then someone might ask a question: you mean as we learn the language, are we going to learn all those ways of programming? Definitely yes, we are going to learn all those different ways of programming. Now, this is what makes C++ powerful. This is what makes C++ flexible. I remember as I was beginning this session, I said mark each word that we write in this session. It's the guideline to where we are going to go in the future. I began by saying it's a powerful language. What has made it powerful? Having the ability to provide the programmer with different ways of programming, either object-oriented or procedure or function. Now, being able to avail these ways of programming is what makes the language a general purpose language, to minimize that into the term being flexible. Being flexible. So the language is as flexible as you can ever imagine. Now, C++ excels. C++ excels in situations. C++ excels in situations where high performance and precise control over memory and other resources over memory and other resources needed for a system or an application or a software. Now, something that I want to talk about in this section: when a program is executing, of course it's guided by the operating system, since it's the foundation software within the computer. Now, when a program is in execution, it requires what we call resources. It requires what we call resources for survival. And among the resources, one, we have memory. Each time we talk about memory in programming, it means RAM. Two, other resources include CPU time. Another resource is files. Another resource is input and output devices. Okay, but the major resources when a program is in execution, one is RAM, or what we call the user memory. Then we have the CPU time and the files. So what makes C++ more powerful and flexible? There is another reason that has just dropped in right now. It excels in situation where high performance and precise control over memory and other resources, okay, is needed. Are we getting the idea? Now, these are some of the applications that can be written by C++. These are some of the applications that can be written by C++. Among them we have video games. Okay, someone is saying, hey, are you serious? Yes, we have video games. Then high performance financial applications. High performance financial applications. Okay, these are some of the applications that can be built with C++. So someone is now having a bigger mind to open. You mean the language can do all that? Definitely, we are mentioning more graphical applications and simulations, graphical apps and simulations, graphical apps and simulations, among others, embedded software, then we have audio and video processing. So of course, I think by now whoever was denying the fact that the language is flexible and powerful is getting to believe that the language can really do a lot. Now, basing on that, okay, we are having more and more about the language. Now, the language can be used to develop operating systems. Okay, you can make research about that, which operating systems are having C++ in their core functionality. The language can be used to develop browsers, video games, financial applications, graphical applications, embedded software, audio and video processing. So the language is really a powerful and flexible language, as we insist. Now, of course, someone might ask, do I need to know C before C++? My answer is no. You can perfectly begin with a language, and that's what I've done. I've not yet interacted with C with you guys as my audience, but here is our first session we are interacting with C++, with belief that you don't need to learn C first before you learn C++. But of course, along the way, if need arises and you believe you need to adjust and learn C, then no problem. Okay, but these days we learn a number of languages. You can learn one language, another, depending on the need that might arise as a programmer. Now, after having that brief preview about the language, maybe I'll need to talk about a short background. Some people hate history, but to me it really counts a lot, more so when it comes to these programming languages. Now, the language was standardized in the year 1998, okay, by ISO. Those guys were asking, what is ISO? Is it a security organization? No. In the world of technology, we have what we call ISO, but the year was 1998. That was the first standardization. Then later, the language had a minor update in 2003, if I recall, okay, and the version was called C++03. I know where you guys were by the year 2003, but that was the first minor update. Then later we had about 4 major updates, 4 major updates on the language. I know as you're watching this video, something is really sparking up your mind, wondering, does the language really have updates? Yes, technology keeps on evolving. More things are being added based on the demands and the requirements of the types of applications that are required on the market and their functionality. So these guys keep on making major updates. So without forgetting, so far we have 4 major updates. One of the updates that we have C++ version 11, then we have C++ version 14, then we have C++ version 17, C++ version 17, and I think, I'm not so sure, but I think by now it might be beyond. I'm not so updated, but we have version 20. Then I'm not sure, by the time I'm doing this video there was an expectation of version 23. It might be already out or even beyond, but we have quite a number of updates. Okay, now one thing that you need to note about these versions is that each new formal release of the language is called a language standard. Okay, each new formal release of the language is called a language standard or a language specification. Okay, so you can say the C++ standard version 11 or 14 or language specification 17 or 23, whatever the case may be. So and those names or those versions are named after the year of release. So what do I mean? If I say C++ version 11, definitely that was in the year 2011, then 2014, then 2017, then 2020. So yeah, I think my updates are right. So we are in the year 2021. So So we are hoping that by the year 2023 we shall be having another updated version of the language. So in that case, I know you might be having quite a number of questions based on the episode, but please note them down. You can get back to me through my email or my WhatsApp, or you can do more research basing on what you really have. Now, what are the features of the language? What are the features of the language? Okay, 1, speed. Okay, then 2, I'll come back for explanations. The language is object oriented. That is reflecting again, I think for the 3rd time, it's a multi-paradigm language. It's a multi-paradigm language. Then this was also mentioned earlier, it's a general purpose language. I'm sure as you look for more, as you make more research, you're going to find out more features. But 1, we said the language is speedy. It's a speedy language. Then we said it's object oriented. Then it's multi-paradigm. It's general purpose. General purpose, I've talked about that already in my earlier explanations. Speed, the language is optimized for performance. I think I talked about it earlier around here when I said the language excels in situations where high performance and precise control over memory and other resources. So that was also tapped about. Then being multi-paradigm, C++ supports at least 7 different styles of programming. This is the flexibility I talked about up here. Okay, but me, I listed 3 where we had being able to handle the object-oriented aspect style of programming, being procedural, and being functional. So a developer might choose to combine all of them, or pick a few, or pick one, depending on which section of the language they are handling. So that makes it a multi-paradigm language. Okay, so once again, someone might ask, why am I learning the language? See, up there I've already suggested, I've already given you a list of applicabilities as they are listed above. So it is really quite an interesting language. After the brief details, I would love that someone does these questions for me. 1, who invented the language? Who invented the language? Which year? Place? Then purpose. That is also very, very important. Okay, now in the next bit, I want us to look at the structure. I can call it skeleton of a C++ program. Structure means layout, like now what goes first, what is expected to go second, the organization bit of a C++ program. We are not going to write a program as of now, but we need to know the structure. Now, the moment we enter into this section, then it means we have started tapping into syntax. In one of the previous episodes, we talked about features of programming languages, and among them we talked about syntax. That is where we identified what we call syntactical rules, and we said it's about violation of grammar. Now here we are talking about the structure of a C++ program. So it seems very important if we first suggest or outline the syntax of the language, and this will help us move through, or it will guide us through whatever is going to happen. One, the language is very, but we can just say, case sensitive. Okay, case sensitivity means about characters. If one is meant to be capital, please don't twist it to small. If one is meant to be small, don't twist it to capital. So that is what we call case sensitivity. 2, all statements must be terminated. Termination means using a semicolon. So for every statement that we are going to write, don't ask me what statements are. It's to the future, we shall know, but mark the termination. So all statements must be terminated. Then the language is library based. Library based means it's hard, or it's kinda impossible that if you're developing an application using C++, that you can do away with libraries. The language is library enriched, so it means that each time you're developing an application, it requires you to reach out to different libraries for the different tools that will make the application fully functional as expected. So we are saying case sensitive, termination, being library based. Then the language supports comments. We shall know what comments are along the way, but these are of two types. We have what we call single line comments, and we have what we call multi-line comments. Okay, so we are still under the rules or syntactical guidelines of the language. It supports comments. Then applications or source code, applications or source codes saved with an extension .cpp. Okay, so each time you're writing source code or an application for your program or whatever the case may be, you save it with an extension .cpp. CPP means C++. Okay, so 6, each application must have a main. Don't ask me what a main is, that will be talked about in the next session, but we are trying to note out the rules of the language. Now we shall pause a bit with those 6 rules. I know along the way I'll be pointing out more and more at different stakes of our sessions. Now back to the structure. Now when it comes to the structure, if it's a human being, you'll say a human being begins with the head, then the neck, then the shoulders, then the chest. As you go below, you cannot find the neck on top of the head, or neither can you find the shoulders on the head. So the same thing applies here. So how is a C++ program structured? So what we always begin with are header files. you have any either inbuilt or user defined, or don't ask me about inbuilt and user defined, don't ask me about what header files are, but first pick it up from this point that we always begin with header files. They can be as many as possible. That is what the 3 dots mean. Now in the next bit it will be function declarations. They can be also as many as possible depending on what you're doing. Then global declarations. Okay, function declarations, then global declarations. They can also be as many as you wish depending on what you're doing. Then the next bit, of course, it will be the main method or the main function, and down there we shall have local declarations. So local declarations, these ones can also be as many as possible. That's the meaning of those 3 dots. Then here we can have other statements. These ones can also be as many as possible. Now outside the main, or outside this bracket, that is where we have what we call function definitions. That is where we have function definitions. They can also be as many as possible. So whoever is watching right now, that is basically the skeleton of a C++ program. Mark it. Of course, we shall be coming back and forth to exactly get the understanding, but we begin with the header files, then function declarations, then global declarations. Now interchanging of function and global declarations has no problem. Any of them can come first or the other one can come last, but header files should always come first. Okay, then next is the main function, or where you see that main word. Then inside, definitely we begin with local declarations, then other statements. Then after closing the main, down we can have what we call function definitions. I said don't ask me what is called declaration. I hear definition, I hear what is a function, I hear what is a header file. They will all make sense along the way, but that is the skeleton. So what we are going to do to prove that, I'm going to open a new tab here that is going to help us see how a basic C++ program looks like. Without forgetting, I'm using a text editor that is called Sublime. Now maybe I should talk about this at this very point. Now if you have downloaded and installed Sublime, I told you it's a free application, you don't need to pay anything, but of course you'll need the key at a certain point. That is why it's also saying unregistered, but don't care about that, it is working perfectly well. So here you are. If you're having Sublime and you would want to use Sublime the way I'm doing, what you'll have to do, you'll go to View, then you go to Syntax, then you look for C++. Now this, if you have been following from my previous episodes, I say the text editor can allow you use as many languages as possible, basing on how it was designed or how it was created. So the same that we have around here in Sublime Text, If you go to view, of course in other text editors you will not go to view. I'm going to open another text editor here and I will show you how it can be done. So you can go to view, then you go to C++. Definitely when you say C++, then whatever is going to happen next will be working in line with C++. Now some of you might be using Notepad++ as a text editor. I'll open it here too and show you. Now for Notepad++, what you need to do, you can open a new tab by clicking there, or you go to file and you say new. Definitely you will have a new tab. Don't mind about these so many tabs that I'm having here. Focus on this new one, it's called new tab 6. Then in Sublime you go to view, but in Notepad++ you go to language. So you'll go to language, and this one is organized in form of alphabetical letters. So look out for C, and of course you'll be seeing C++. Then once again another section, if it is VS Code, for those of you who have VS Code, you have downloaded and installed. When you open VS Code, I'm showing you how to do the same thing in different applications or in different text editors. Again, don't mind about these already used tabs. These are Python tabs, but don't care, don't worry. So you just go to file and you say new file, the same way we have been doing it throughout. Then what you'll do, below VS Code there is something that is saying plain text, okay, and it brings a tooltip saying select language mode. So you click, okay. After clicking, obviously you're going to find C++, confirming to you what we had suggested earlier in the syntactical rules. We said all applications should be saved with an extension .cpp. So guys, it has been quite a session. Hope you've really gotten something out of it. You can always play it as many times as possible, or reach me out on programmerslife@gmail.com, or my WhatsApp 0751824973. I sign out.